singing, this'll be the day that I die. What? This'll be the day that I die. He's a warrior, he will be back, he will be a champion again. But I will say, the king has returned to the top of the throne.
Welcome to Kyle Anthony's UFC betting show. I am Kyle Anthony, and welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the bet review show for UFC on ESPN plus 26. Dan Hooker versus Paul Felder. We had 5 plays overall in the night, 1 on the boxing fight, Wilder versus Fury, which we will get into that, and as well as 4 plays for UFC. So we overall went 4-1 on the night. Some nice plus money plays. We're going to go over that as well, and as well as our play on Fury versus Wilder, which we did discuss on the main event podcast show with Minty Bets. So definitely check that out as well. If you have not yet done so, definitely subscribe to this channel. Give it a thumbs up. We are on a tear to start 2020 overall. Right now we are 16-5 on all plays released, from free plays to the plays on Wagertalk. Just on my client Wagertalk plays, I am 10-2 for the year. So really a great start. So let's get into what we had bet and our winners here and our one loser, which really felt like we actually won that Paul Felder fight. But we're going to first get into our Wagertalk client play. The first one that we had was Jimmy Crute to defeat Mikhail Jacek. And this was a fight here. We had Jimmy Crute at plus 120. Really liked the price here. And I think the big reason that I liked him a lot was what he could do and how he's going to change the way that Mikhail really fights. And Mikhail is really used to being the hammer, going out there, pushing forward, being the driver of the fight, putting the pressure on. And this is going to be something that Crute would really be able to counter a lot of that. And I like that the fact that his pressure and his strength was going to be a lot more than Jacek. I thought that there was a lot more that Crute really had overall, and really implementing a clinch strategy in this fight I thought was very different. I knew that the pressure would be there. I thought that'd be a big portion of this, of an opportunity and a path to victory for him. But the fact that he came out right away and really shot forward, had the clinch, looked to take it to the ground, and then there was a point where I thought he was doing a little too much, that he was really putting on too much of the pressure and not just striking, because Crute is a great striker. But the fact that Jacek, he was not prepared for, this was really kind of presented as a striker versus striker kind of match, and for Crute to go out there and implement a different game plan, I thought was very clever of him. And then also being able to go out there, get the Kimura in the first round. I mean, he really was pressuring him, and you could see also that Jacek, his gas tank is a little bit in question. It's not that, there is a little bit of that portion of it too. So that's also possibly why Crute was looking to push forward, get the pressure going, and then also get it to the ground, and then had the opportunity to get that finish. So we were able to cash in on our first play for Jimmy Crute plus 125 as a Wagertalk play. The other Wagertalk play that we had was Marco De Lima versus Ben Sissoli. And Marco De Lima, this was here, he's minus 140. There was a lot of things that I liked about De Lima, and if you look at him, it's definitely not an impressive resume of wins that he has, but compared to what Sissoli has, I just didn't like it at all. Sissoli this was his second UFC fight, and then you had someone like De Lima who has had 9. This was his 9th UFC fight, and yes, he's lost some and he's won some, but I think the competition level to begin with is a lot different, something that Sissoli has seen. Sissoli really fighting at lower level competition, fought on Dana White Contender Series, and then most recently, him fighting against Greg Hardy. And this was a fight that I thought was a terrible showing for him. That, again, you've got, Hardy is a kind of a fighter that he doesn't really have much skills when it comes to mixed martial arts. He's a tough guy, he's big, he's got a lot of that aggressive style to him where he can land a big shot. He's a big guy, but technically speaking, he really doesn't have very much to offer. And Sissoli, being the mixed martial artist, was being outstruck. So for me, that was a big downgrade overall for Sissoli, and right now only getting De Lima at a minus 140. I thought the price was pretty good. I even saw him at a minus 135 prior to the fight, but I thought that the line was way off here. I thought thought this was something where Sisoli did not, this should have been, De Lima minus 250. It should have been up in that range. I thought this was way off. But De Lima did what he had to do. He goes out there, gets the knockout finish early, really poured it on him. He showed that he did have some technical skills. This is a good weight class for him as well, which I do like. But this was another winner on our Wagertalk plays. Marcos De Lima winning. That was a minus 140 winner. Then we had, the other one we had was Jan Shonan versus Karolina Kowalkiewicz. This was a fight here that I liked a lot. That, I thought this price was another one that was off. And you have Shonan, she was a minus 220, minus 230, somewhere in that range. And again, this should have been a minus 300 or above easily, in my opinion. And, we talked about this on the prediction show that, Kowalkiewicz, she is a great fighter. I think she's got a nice skill set to her overall. But the thing is that she just can't handle the pressure. That's something that she has shown overall. And over the last 3 fights, she hasn't even won a round. She was brutally knocked out by Jessica Andrade, and then losing 2 fights back to back where she was completely outpointed, 30-27 on the scorecards. And this was another spot here where I just didn't see that she did very much. She likes to have that outside striking, and she's very good when it comes to that. But if you're able to put some pressure on her and really put the attack and really push forward, she doesn't have much of a game plan when it comes to that. Even when you saw that when Shonan was kind of, starting to grapple, even in those scenarios, she kind of could just lay on her a little bit, and there wasn't much that Kowalkiewicz really was able to offer that was going to change the pace of that fight. And then even in, once she won that first round, it already made me feel good because I just know that Kowalkiewicz is not going to finish Jan Shonan. She's not going to be able to do it. And then in that second round, she won that second round, felt good about it as well. That pretty much, in my opinion, put the stamp on this fight, regardless of what was going to happen in that third round. But Jan Shonan does go out there and get us that victory at a minus 220. So that made us 3-0 on those plays. And then we also had the which I would like to talk about a little bit more, but the Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder fight. I thought this was an incredible fight overall, and I did a big breakdown again on our main event podcast on Wagertalk with Minty Bets. We discussed this in depth, so if you definitely want to check that out, check that out. But this was one here where, again, I thought that the public money was going to be going to Wilder. So if you liked Wilder, you wanted to bet him a while ago, and if you liked Fury, you wanted to bet him late. You want to bet him up to fight time because that money on Wilder was going to be pouring in. And to me, there were so many things I liked about Fury in this overall. And I think the biggest not only was just the footwork that he has, because that's a lot of people are talking about that. That's obviously a big thing for Fury, is that he's got that footwork. He's very unorthodox. That's something very tough to train for, and that was going to be something. But I really thought that in that 12th round of their first fight, when Fury got knocked down, and then he got up and almost didn't care. He almost went forward, started pressuring Wilder, and it's almost like he stumbled across a way to beat Wilder. And most people don't want to push Wilder forward because they're worried about the big shot. They're worried that they're going to be able to, he's going to be able to throw a big bomb back. And that was something that, again, the unorthodox style of Fury mixed in with the pressure was going to be a lot. And closing the distance to Wilder was going to be the key to victory there. And again, we talked about this on the show, was a big key to victory, because you do not want to be outside, letting Wilder work his range and letting him extend his arms fully to really transfer a big power shot. And that was pretty much the exact way that Fury went out there. He was walking down Wilder pretty much the entire time. Walking him down, landing big shots, walking him down. It almost looked like Wilder didn't even have an answer for it. I mean, I would say he pretty much, from beginning to end, this was a Fury fight. Fury looked in great shape. Definitely had gained weight, but it looked like it was pretty good weight. I mean, he's not a guy that you're going to have a six-pack. He's definitely not going to be that kind of guy, but he looked, his arms looked bigger, looked a little more definition to him, looked in great shape. He had a lot more cardio, it looked like, as well, because Wilder, early in that fight, I think once he was taking a beating, he started to really kind of fall apart a little bit there, and, he had his arms down. It was maybe the 4th or 5th round, which to me is pretty damn early. And he was able to land some big shots, dropped Wilder a few times. And for me, the big part against Wilder was what he did against Luis Ortiz in their second fight, which was the most current fight up until this point against Wilder. And this was where you look in that fight, Wilder was losing the first 6 rounds of that fight, 5 rounds of that fight, somewhere in there against Luis Ortiz until he landed the big knockout punch. And everybody remembers the big knockout punch. And he did get that win. It's another knockout on his resume. But he was losing that fight. He was being outboxed by a shorter guy, a smaller guy. And now you've got somebody like Fury who can really implement a different strategy into this fight. As well as I thought he's the kind of guy, Fury's the kind of guy that is going to be able to change his strategy on the fly and he'd be able to move things around. Where Wilder sticks to the same game plan. It works for him. It definitely works for him because he's, he was 49-0 with 48 knockouts, so it works for him. But I think a second fight against a guy like Fury, it gave him a great opportunity to really work a better game plan, and really cutting that distance and working in tight and using his footwork was a big part to victory there. So we were able to cash in on Tyson Fury, bet him at -108, and then when the line got up to +115, +110, I bet it again because to me, it just made a lot more sense. I didn't think it was going to get the plus money up there for Fury. It ended up getting up higher. I had to bet it again. So there was another win for us, making it a 4-0 night for the night. And the only loser that we had, which, I do feel like we did get this victory, was a split decision loss, but we had Paul Felder to defeat Dan Hooker. Paul Felder did not win. He was +120. And this was a fight here. And again, if you want to check out the whole breakdown, I have that on my channel. But the big part to me here was going to be the leg kicks and having the better striking for Felder compared to Dan Hooker. And Dan Hooker has beaten some good fighters, but he has not beaten, and he is always losing to guys with better striking. And that's someone against, Ali Quinta. Ali Quinta has good wrestling, not the greatest striking. Those are the people. He fought Barboza. Barboza's got better striking than him. He lost to Barboza. And I thought a big part also was the fact that Felder fought Barboza standing pretty much the whole time and ended up beating him. And Hooker ended up getting beat up and knocked out in that, whatever it was, the middle of that fight. So I thought that this was a great spot to take Felder. I know it was a big part on home soil for Dan Hooker, and that was something that did worry me, but I really thought that laying it on the way that Felder was going to be laying on was going to be enough, regardless of where this fight was going to take place. He outstruck him. They showed the strikes. Felder outstruck him. Felder took him down. Felder hurt Hooker a lot in that fight. There were spots where I thought the fight was possibly going to even end, but Hooker is tough. That was definitely, a part of it where he's got a lot of that ability to kind of push through in tough spots. But Felder, I thought, really laid it on. I thought that it was an easy 3 rounds that you could easily give to Felder, and possibly 2. I thought maybe even a 4-1, in my opinion, for Felder, but a 3-2, I thought, at a minimum. When I heard the split decision, I was a little bit worried there, but still thought that we were going to get it. Dan Hooker does get the nod at home. Little disappointed. I talked to a bunch of you on Twitter this morning. A lot of people were upset about that. They really thought that Felder had got that victory. Would have been nice to have another perfect night. But overall, again, we are 16-5 on all plays released and 10-2 to my Wagertalk clients. So it has been a very profitable year so far overall. And we got to keep it going because it's a great start to the year. A lot more year left. So we're able to cash in overall another profitable night overall in betting combat sports, and definitely have the prediction show out again on the next one. Definitely subscribe, like, comment, get involved. Always appreciate it. And this is Kyle Anthony's UFC betting show, and I'll see you next time.